Now we're getting a little more modern. 1960, the American Football League started. And it started because people were frustrated. I guess rich people were frustrated because they couldn't get into the NFL. And Lamar Hunt, you've heard of him, right? With Kansas City
Mhm.
Chiefs. Lamar Hunt,
Yes.
family still own them.
Right.
Well, he started the Dallas Texans that became the Kansas City Chiefs. He also started pro tennis, pro soccer in the United States. So the guy just loves sports and spent his money. So the reporters asked H.L. Hunt about his son losing $1 million that year with the AFL. And H.L. Hunt says, well, at that pace, he'll run out of money in 100 years. So that's how much his son had. That's $1 million in 1960 rates.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
here's the original teams from the AFL. And you can see these guys still exist, except two New York Titans. Guess who they became?
Oh,
Say the Jets.
the Jets or
Yeah, they became the Jets. Very good. And then the Dallas Texans, they became Kansas City Chiefs.
Interesting.
Cowboys and the Texans were competing at the same time in Dallas, and Lamar Hunt just decided, I'll go to better territory.
Yeah.
First championship was won by in the AFL by Houston Oilers, so I thought you guys might like that, right?
Oh,
Houston
yeah.
Oilers were the first AFL. They beat
That'd be
LA
good.
Dan
Chargers.
Pastorini.
What?
Dan Pastorini,
I don't
quarterback.
know. Maybe he did. I don't know. Was he there? Okay.
I think so.
All right. 24-16 they won. And the AFL scared the NFL because they signed 75% of the NFL first draft choices in 1960. I guess they had money. That's how come Lamar Hunt lost so much money, I guess, buying these players. Competition. This is why they merged. The competition for players got more and more expensive. Joe Namath was signed with the Jets and for $427,000. So that was outrageous back then. So I looked it up. I said that was $4.2 million by today's standards. So can you imagine what backup quarterback can you hardly sign today for 4.2 million? So I mean, salaries of revenue for the NFL, I say, should change too because now they can afford it.
Yeah.
I think he helped with the merger. He made the AFL look legitimate because he made that guarantee, waving that thing. It would get guarantee they were going to win the Super Bowl, and they did. All right, then there's merger talks with the NFL started on June 8th, 1966, and it took place in 1970. So that's when they changed the name to the NFL for both divisions. They had the AFC and the NFC, and you all know about that. So they had the government passed a law, EA Sports. It was called 89-800, and it gave them an exemption, so they don't have exemption from the antitrust law, so they can have a monopoly on professional football. So they still lock people out. Later on, the World Football League, that was started because people couldn't get a team in the NFL. Three of the teams that were in the NFL went to the AFC when they merged. Pittsburgh Steelers used to be with the NFL. Cleveland Browns were with the NFL. Even when Jim Brown was with them, they were NFL. And the Baltimore Colts. And what I thought was interesting about the Baltimore Colts, they lost a Super Bowl as an NFC team, NFL at the time, but then they won a Super Bowl for the AFC. So I'm thinking they probably the only team that's won a Super Bowl for both conferences. First world champion, they call it world championships at first. First world championship with Green Bay beat Kansas 35-10 in 1966. And the game at first they said it was going to be called the big one. Then the Pro Bowl. Then they said, well, let's call it the AFL NFL World Championship game. And you probably know this is common, but Lamar Hunt, that guy his son was playing with a Super Ball. You probably maybe not remember, but back in the day, they made Super Balls, and you bounce them, and they bounce way up in the air. They made a baseball Super Ball. I think people got hurt with them because you hit them off the bat. Those things just with 1,000,000 miles per hour. Anyway, he said, what a name. So that's where the name Super Bowl came into play. Do y'all remember, too, the first two Super Bowls, there was also a consolation bowl of some sort, where the teams that didn't go to the Super Bowl played each other. Dallas and Baltimore played that one year. That year at Ice Bowl where the Dallas Cowboys didn't beat the Green Bay Packers, they played the losers in the AFC teams, who was the third and fourth place. So I remember that because that's when I was a Cowboys fan. Still am. Here's the list of all the current teams, along with when they joined the NFL. I'll pop that up. I'm not going to go through them all, but here's some that are interesting. Buffalo Bills were the 1960 champions, AFL champions, just to let you know. But New York Jets, they were originally the Titans. New York Patriots, they were the Boston Patriots in 1960. Then they became the New England Patriots. I remember that because no one going to the Boston game. So I thought, well, let's make it New England. So attendance went up.
Wow.
Let's see. Oh, Baltimore Ravens. You see, I get the Baltimore Ravens. In 1946, they were the Cleveland Browns. Then they moved to Baltimore in 1996. And then, but when they moved to Baltimore, all the records in history of the Cleveland Browns stayed in Cleveland for the new team, which became the Cleveland Browns in 1999. So even though they were different franchises, they switched histories. And then to go down here, Pittsburgh Steelers. They were the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1933, just like the baseball team. Then there was people went to war, so they had a shortage of players. So in 1943, they merged with the Eagles for a year. They became the Phil Pitt Eagles or Steagles. They were the Steagles. In 1944, they merged for a year with the Chicago Cardinals. They became the Card Pits or the Carpets. Houston Texans, 1999.
Yeah.
They started. That's after the Oilers moved to Tennessee. I don't know if y'all remember that. I was like disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. It's like yesterday.
Yeah. And then then they got rid of the Astro World down there. I can nab it. That was a fun little park.
That whole place looks like I haven't seen it recently, but the last time I passed by, it was completely demolished. It's all, I think the Astrodome is still there, right?
Yeah, that's still there. I think, but the Astro World, that was fun. I think some city leaders said that they could make money by tearing it down.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay, then we got the Indianapolis Colts. They started in 1920 at Triangle Park in Dayton, Ohio. Then they became the Dallas Texans. Then they moved 1953 to Baltimore. 1970, they moved to AFC. And all. Then we got Tennessee Titans. They started in 1960 as the Houston Oilers. 1997 moved to Tennessee Oilers. Then in 1999 became the Tennessee Titans.
Ooh. Yeah, I remember that.
The Kansas City Chiefs, 1960, they were the Dallas Texans. 1963, they moved to Kansas City. Then the Los Angeles Chargers. 1960, they were the Los Angeles Chargers. 1961, San Diego Chargers. 2017, Los Angeles Chargers.
Lewis.
NFC East, Cowboys. You know where they were? They were in Dallas. Then they were in Irving. Now they're in Arlington. Nothing to do with Dallas except the name. Washington Commanders. They started in 1932 as the Boston Braves. 1933 as the Boston Redskins. I didn't know they were in Boston. 1937, Washington Redskins. 1920, Washington Football Team. And then 2022, the Washington Commanders. Detroit Lions, 1930, were the Portsmouth Spartans. Let's see. Then the Chicago Bears with Decatur, Illinois. Yeah, they're the original ones. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
So this was something too. San Francisco 49ers. They joined the AAFC in 1949, which became the NFL in 1949. So I always thought the 49ers, which is true, they had the 49ers for the gold rush, but they joined in 49. So I didn't know if they had a double meaning to that or not. Just wondering. Here's a list of the Super Bowl championship teams. Yeah, how many each one of them won. They get 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But what was interesting, how many have won 0? There are 12 teams that haven't won any. And I bring that up because being a Cowboy fan, getting frustrated with the Cowboys, sheesh, at least we have 5 Super Bowls, 12 to haven't even won one. So that was remarkable.
That's pretty hard.
Like we've said before, it's not that easy to win a championship as us fans try to make it sound like, And the last thing for now I want to bring up, here are the NFL champions. These guys won a championship before there were Super Bowls. So you can see that some of, like Packers, 11 championships, NFL championships.
Wow.
But some of them, like when they're Detroit's got 4 NFL championships. We sometimes say, like, well, they don't have any Super Bowls, but they did win some championships. So I thought that was interesting. So anyway, that's all I have right now. I went through it really fast. Very high level, but I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, good little
factoid. If anyone
factoid.
else does. And I know you guys didn't get to talk much because I was just yakking, but we'll see if anyone out there any of you guys see any interest in history. And also, if you guys that really, really know the NFL, you might want to add some notes down here. Tell me like, no, Bruce, what really happened was this, or whatever. Because punting is one thing I couldn't find a lot of information about. It looks like it just kind of evolved.
Right.
I know. So there's a lot more to find out. But anyway, you guys have anything to add for history?
No, man, I feel like I'm back in like, 7th grade and just, at a history course. But we really appreciate you taking us back into the time machine, Mr. Peabody. It was pretty cool to see the evolution there.
Well, one of my fears when I was a history teacher that, I did notice a lot of people went to sleep. So if you have trouble sleeping, maybe this will help. If you enjoyed it, let me know. Anyway, we'll see y'all next time.
All righty.